You really think someone will come to save you, little insect? Xanth sneered, his cruel laughter echoing off the walls of the prison cell where Louis Howard sat, bruised and bloodied from the rough treatment of the Komar guards. Just hours ago, Louis had arrived on the Komar homeworld as a diplomatic envoy, hoping to negotiate a peace treaty between the aggressive alien race and the United Terran Alliance. But the Komar had no interest in diplomacy. They seized Louis immediately upon his arrival and dragged him before their tyrannical leader. Xanth towered over Louis, his chitinous exoskeleton glinting under the harsh lights of the throne room. Your species is powerless against us. We have vastly superior technology and strength. You will be crushed like the bugs you are. Louis lifted his chin defiantly, ignoring the pain from his split lip. Humanity will never submit to you. We'll fight to our last breath before we let you enslave us. But Xanth just laughed again, the grating sound sending chills down Louis's spine. With a wave of his clawed hand, Xanth had the guards throw Louis into a dank cell. There, slumped against the wall, was another human, a soldier named Marcus. You're the diplomat, aren't you? Marcus asked, his voice raspy. I heard them bring you in. Guess the negotiations didn't go so well. The Komar never intended to negotiate, Louis said grimly. Xanth plans to invade Earth and wipe out the human race. Several of our colonies have already been destroyed. Marcus slowly climbed to his feet. Then you know what we have to do. We have to get out of here, warn Earth, and find some way to stop them. The fate of humanity is at stake. Louis nodded, determination hardening in his gut. The odds of two humans defeating a galactic empire were astronomical. Xanth's war fleet was already preparing to descend on Earth, armed with planet-destroying weapons the UTA could only dream of. But Louis refused to just sit in this cell and wait for his species to be eradicated or enslaved. He would find a way to fight back, to exploit some weakness or vulnerability in the Komar's arrogant superiority, even if it meant sacrificing his own life. Together, he and Marcus started searching the cell for any means of escape, knowing that with each passing minute, the Komar drew closer to Earth, and humanity slipped further toward the brink of total annihilation. Louis pried off a panel on the cell wall, revealing a tangle of wires and circuitry. Marcus kept watch at the door, his muscles tense. They had managed to create makeshift weapons from the sparse contents of their cell, a sharpened screw, a heavy metal bar wrenched free. It wasn't much, but it would have to do. I think I can short out the door controls, Louis whispered, his fingers deftly sorting through the mass of alien technology. Just give me a... The cell door clicked and hissed open. Got it. Marcus gave him an impressed look. Not bad for a diplomat. They crept into the corridor, senses on high alert. The Komar ship was a labyrinth of twisting passageways and cavernous chambers, everything constructed with the same shiny black material as their exoskeletons. Louis suppressed a shudder. A patrol of guards marched into view ahead. Marcus reacted instantly, leaping forward to tackle the first guard and wrestle away its weapon. Louis jammed his sharpened screw into a vulnerable joint in another guard's armor, sparks flying. The Komar let out a screech. They moved quickly after that, sneaking through side passages to avoid any more confrontations. At last they reached the hangar bay, an enormous space with towering walls lined with spacecraft of every size. There, Louis pointed at a comparatively small ship tucked in the corner. A scout ship. It's our best chance. They made their way over to it, darting from cover to cover. Louis found an access panel and connected his diplomat's wrist computer, praying his override codes would work on the Komar technology. The hatch popped open with a hiss of decompression. Inside, they crowded into the small cockpit, Louis sliding into the pilot's seat. His hands flew over the unfamiliar controls until he felt the hum of the engines coming online. I've got weapons, Marcus reported, manning a different console. Just then, the hangar doors opened and a group of Komar soldiers spilled in, weapons raised. Alarms began to blare. They had been discovered. Hold them off, Louis shouted, hands racing to lift off. A barrage of plasma fire streaked past the view screen. Marcus returned fire, the ship's weapons easily blasting through the soldier's armor. With a tremendous explosion, he blew a gaping hole in the hangar doors. Louis gunned the thrusters, and they rocketed out into the starry void. "Cloak us," Marcus said urgently. Louis found the control for the cloaking field and engaged it. The little ship shimmered and vanished from view. For a few tense minutes they held their breath, waiting to see if any pursuers would appear. But the void remained empty. They had done it. They had escaped. Marcus sagged back in his seat, the adrenaline draining away. He winced and pressed a hand to his side, which came away bloody. Louis noticed his torn prisoner's uniform for the first time. "You're hurt." "It's nothing," Marcus grunted. But he let Louis help him out of his shirt to treat the wound. It was a deep gash, but fortunately not life-threatening. As Louis worked to clean and bandage it, he turned his attention to the ship's computer, hoping it would contain the information they desperately needed. He bypassed the security encryption and accessed the central database. What he found made his blood run cold. Schematics for world-killing weapons, enough to reduce the surface of a planet to molten slag, records of test fires that had shattered moons, troop and fleet numbers that dwarfed the entirety of Earth's defenses. But it got worse. There were detailed scans of Earth, military placements, population centers, defense capabilities. The Komar had already scouted humanity's homeworld in preparation for invasion. They knew humanity's every weakness. "My God," Louis breathed. "They've been planning this for years, decades maybe. Earth doesn't stand a chance." Marcus shook his head in disbelief. "So what now? Our mission was to warn Earth, but warning them won't be enough, not against this." He gestured at the screen filled with death tolls and planetary destruction. "We need a plan." Louis racked his brain, searching for any scrap of an idea. Then he remembered something from his diplomatic briefing files, an anomaly recorded by a long-range UTA scout ship. He pulled up the ship's navigation system and found the galactic map. There, in an uncharted region of space, a small planet, supposedly rich in resources, but hazardous to most life. The Komar records confirmed it as an uncolonized world. "There," Louis said, pointing. "If there's anywhere in the galaxy the Komar haven't fully scouted, it's there. And if we want any hope of stopping them, we need an ace up our sleeve. Something they won't expect." Marcus looked dubious. "You want us to go chasing after a random planet while the Komar are breathing down our necks? While they're on their way to obliterate Earth? It's a hell of a gamble." "I know," Louis admitted, "but it's the only play we've got. Unless you have any other ideas for how two humans can defeat a galactic empire." For a long moment, Marcus was silent. Then he sighed. "All right, let's see if your diplomatic instincts are on target. Set a course for this mystery planet of yours." Louis did so, and the ship leaped to FTL, vanishing into the depths of uncharted space. Behind them, light years away, the unstoppable might of the Komar invasion fleet continued its inexorable push towards Earth, ready to snuff out the light of humanity forever. But they did not know that two humans had escaped their clutches with the knowledge to stop them, and the desperate commitment to do so, regardless of the cost. On the Komar homeworld, in the throne room where the invasion had been planned for years, Xanth seethed with rage as his subordinates made their report. The two human prisoners, the only ones who knew the true extent of their plans, had somehow managed to escape, stealing a ship and fleeing like the vermin they were. Xanth clenched his clawed fists until ichor dripped to the floor. This could not be allowed. Those humans could jeopardize everything if they reached Earth. "Summon Zarn," Xanth growled. "I want those humans' heads mounted on my wall." Minutes later, Zarn stalked into the throne room, his exoskeleton covered in battle scars and trophies from past hunts. The greatest tracker in the Komar's ranks, he had never failed to run his quarry to ground. "Find them," Xanth commanded. "Find them and wipe them from the face of the universe. Let nothing stop you." Zarn slammed a fist to his chest. "The humans will die screaming," he promised. He turned on his heel and marched away to begin the hunt. In the throne room, Xanth brooded on his dais, imagining the pleasure of hearing those screams for himself, and the glory of stepping over the broken corpse of Earth to crown himself the ruler of the galaxy. These impudent humans would not stop him. Could not stop him. Their species would be ground to dust beneath his heel. It was only a matter of time. The cloaked scout ship streaked through the void, Louis and Marcus scanning frantically for any sign of pursuit. The uncharted planet loomed ahead, a swirling mass of greens and blues. "Entering atmosphere," Louis announced, hands flying over the controls. The ship shuddered as it plunged through clouds. "Running scans." Marcus leaned forward, eyes locked on the readouts. "Wait, I'm picking up something. An energy signature, deep in that jungle region." They exchanged a look. Could this be what they were hoping for? Louis brought the ship down in a small clearing. As the hatch hissed open, humid air flooded in. They stepped out, boots sinking into damp soil. Marcus hefted a plasma rifle, while Louis checked his sidearm. "Let's move," Marcus said grimly. They pushed through dense foliage for hours, sweat soaking their clothes. Alien insects buzzed incessantly. Just as Louis was ready to collapse, Marcus held up a hand. "Look." Ahead, barely visible through the trees, stood crumbling stone structures covered in vines. They approached cautiously. An entrance gaped like a maw leading underground. Inside, their lights revealed vast chambers filled with strange machinery. Metallic tendrils snaked along walls. Crystalline structures pulsed with faint light. "This tech," Louis breathed. "It's like nothing I've ever seen." They pressed deeper. In what appeared to be a control room, Louis found a still-active computer core. He connected his wrist device, fingers flying as he initiated an interface. "Marcus, look at this," he called. "These ruins, they're from some ancient civilization, one that spanned the entire galaxy." Marcus whistled. "Anything that could help us stop the Komar?" Louis's eyes widened. "Weapons. Defenses. This is incredible. If we can get this data back to Earth." A distant boom echoed through the ruins. They froze. "That sounded like," Marcus began. "A ship landing," Louis finished. "We need to move. Now." They raced to download the precious data. The facility's power fluctuated, threatening to cut out at any moment. Just as the transfer completed, plasma bolts sizzled past their heads. Komar soldiers poured in, led by a hulking figure Louis recognized from the briefing files. "Zarn!" he hissed. Marcus shoved Louis toward the exit. "Get to the ship. I'll hold them off." Louis sprinted through the ruins as Marcus laid down covering fire. He made it to the scout ship, jumping into the pilot's seat. The engines roared to life. "Marcus, I'm here!" he shouted into the comm. "Where are you?" Static. Then Marcus's voice came through, punctuated by weapons fire. "Structure's collapsing. I'm cut off. You have to go, Louis. Get that data to Earth. It's our only shot." "I can't leave you." "You have to go." Hard in his throat, Louis engaged the cloaking device and lifted off. He watched helplessly as part of the ruins crumbled, burying the entrance. "I'll come back for you," he vowed, even as he plotted a course that would take him far from this world. With Zarn no doubt in pursuit, he'd have to take a circuitous route to reach Allied space. As the planet receded behind him, Louis gripped the controls. The fate of humanity now rested in his hands. Louis's hands flew across the unfamiliar controls as he pushed the stolen Komar scout ship to its limits. Alarms blared, warning of system failures and structural damage. He gritted his teeth, knowing Zarn's hunters were closing in fast. A violent impact rocked the ship. Louis fought to maintain control as the vessel plummeted towards a blue-green world below. "Damn it, not now." He clutched the precious data core to his chest as the ship tore through the atmosphere. The ground rushed up to meet him. Louis braced for impact. Metal screamed and tore. His head slammed forward, then everything went black. He came to with the acrid smell of smoke filling his lungs. Pain lanced through his body as he dragged himself from the wreckage. Blood trickled down his face. But the data core was intact. He stumbled forward, legs barely supporting him. "Hold it right there," a gruff voice commanded. Louis looked up to see a weathered man in a marshal's uniform, pistol trained on him. Please, Louis gasped. I need help. The Komar, they're coming. We have to warn... Save it, son, the marshal cut him off. I don't know what game you're playing, but... A bone-chilling shriek split the air. They both looked up to see sleek black ships descending from the clouds. Those are Komar Hunter-class vessels, Louis said. We need to move, now. The marshal's eyes widened. I'll be damned. Name's Frank Rhodes. Follow me. As they ran, searing beams of energy rained down on the colony. Buildings exploded into rubble. Screams echoed through the streets. This way, Rhodes shouted, leading Louis to a heavy metal door set into a hillside. They dove inside just as another blast obliterated the ground where they'd stood. They raced through winding tunnels, the sounds of destruction growing fainter. Louis's lungs burned, but he pushed on. They emerged into a large cavern filled with frightened colonists. What's happening up there, Frank? A woman asked. We're under attack, Rhodes replied grimly. Aliens, and this fella claims to know something about it. All eyes turned to Louis. He held up the data core. This contains schematics for advanced weapons. If we can get it to an Alliance outpost, we might have a chance. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. A burly miner stepped forward. You get us off this rock, we'll help you deliver that thing. Louis nodded. There's a mining hauler in the central ops room, right? If we can reach it. It's our only shot, Rhodes agreed, but we'll have to fight our way there. They cobbled together a plan. Louis studied schematics of the facility while others gathered what weapons they could. When they were ready, Rhodes addressed the group. This won't be easy, but it's our only chance. Let's move. They surged out of the tunnels, immediately met by Komar soldiers. Plasma bolts sizzled through the air. Louis ducked and weaved, heart pounding. A colonist fell beside him, chest smoking. They pushed forward, inch by bloody inch. Louis's muscles screamed as he vaulted a barricade. Rhodes provided covering fire, his aim deadly accurate. Finally, they reached the central ops room. Louis's fingers danced over the controls, bringing the hauler online. We're in! As the massive craft lumbered out of its hangar, Komar fighters screamed towards them. The hauler shuddered under their assault. Weapons online, Rhodes called out. They broke atmosphere, Louis wrestling with the controls. His relief was short-lived as he saw what awaited them in orbit. Oh no. A colossal Komar warship loomed before them, dwarfing their tiny hauler. It opened fire, the void lighting up with deadly energy. Evasive maneuvers, Louis shouted, throwing the ship into a desperate roll. Alarms blared as their shields failed. Hull breaches vented atmosphere. Louis knew they had only moments left. Then an idea struck. He connected the alien data core to the ship's systems, initiating an emergency overload. Brace yourselves, he yelled. A blinding pulse of energy erupted from the hauler. The Komar warship systems flickered and died. Now's our chance, Louis cried, plotting a course through the treacherous debris field ahead. Next stop, Gamma Centauri. As they limped away from the temporarily disabled warship, Louis knew their battle was far from finished. But for the first time since this nightmare began, he dared to hope. The battered mining hauler lurched through space, its hull groaning under the strain. Louis's hands flew over the controls, fighting to keep the craft stable as it hurtled towards the distant pinprick of light that was Gamma Centauri. Shields at 12%, a colonist shouted from the engineering station. We can't take much more of this. Louis gritted his teeth, swerving to avoid a chunk of debris the size of a small moon. The hauler shuddered as smaller fragments peppered its hull. Behind them, Komar fighters screamed through the void, energy weapons lashing out. Return fire, Rhodes bellowed, manning the rear defense cannons. Blue bolts of plasma streaked from the hauler, forcing the Komar ships to break formation. As they cleared the debris field, Louis allowed himself a moment of hope. The Alliance outpost loomed ahead, a sprawling structure of metal and light. Then, alarms blared. Louis's heart sank as he saw the massive form of Zarn's flagship emerge from hyperspace directly in their path. Its main cannons pulsed with building energy, ready to vaporize them in an instant. "It's over," someone whispered. "No," Lewis growled. He grabbed the alien data core, fingers dancing over its surface. "Not yet." The core hummed to life, pulsing with otherworldly energy. Louis overclocked its systems, pushing them far beyond safe limits. Warning symbols flashed across his screen. "What are you doing?" Rhodes demanded. "Our only chance," Louis replied. He slammed his palm down on the emergency release, jettisoning the now unstable core directly at Zarn's ship. "Everyone brace for impact," Louis shouted. The core detonated. For a split second, Louis saw space itself tear open, a swirling vortex of unimaginable power. Then a shockwave slammed into the hauler, sending it tumbling end over end. Louis's head cracked against the console. Through blurring vision, he saw the Alliance outpost's landing deck rushing up to meet them. The last thing he heard was the screech of tearing metal as the hauler plowed into the deck. He came to in fits and starts. Voices, alarms, the acrid smell of smoke and blood. Hands grabbed him, dragging him from the wreckage. Louis clutched the depleted data core to his chest. "The Komar," he gasped, fighting to stay conscious. "They're coming. Earth." Then darkness claimed him. Louis opened his eyes to stark white walls and the steady beep of medical equipment. His entire body ached. As his vision cleared, he found himself staring into the weathered face of a woman in an admiral's uniform. "Welcome back to the land of the living, son," she said. "I'm Admiral Jaina Cross. You've been out for 3 days." Louis tried to sit up, wincing at the pain. "The data core—" "Safe," Cross assured him. "And it's given us one hell of an advantage. New shielding tech, weapons, AI systems. It's revolutionary stuff." Louis sagged with relief. "Then we have a chance?" Cross nodded grimly. "We've already launched a counterstrike to slow the Komar advance, but it's going to be one hell of a fight." Louis's relief was short-lived as the full weight of recent events crashed down on him. The colonists? Rhodes? Cross's expression said it all. "I'm sorry, most didn't survive the crash." Louis's chest tightened. So many lives lost. Then another name clawed its way to the surface. "Marcus? My friend who stayed behind on the ruin world?" "No sign of him," Cross said softly. "We have to assume—" Louis closed his eyes, grief threatening to overwhelm him. He reached for the chain around his neck, fingers closing around Marcus's dog tag. "It wasn't for nothing," he whispered, as much to himself as to Cross. "We'll make it count." Cross placed a hand on his shoulder. "Rest up. You'll be needed for the fight ahead." As she left, Louis stared out the window at the stars beyond. Somewhere out there, Zarn and his forces were regrouping, adapting to humanity's new weapons. The real war was just beginning, and Earth still had no idea what was coming.
You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel, and for every comment that says 88, I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.